You're tuned into the hottest paranormal life show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe.
And with me, gentlemen. No. With me. That's disturbing the spirits. Do not break the circle. All right, that's enough of that crap. What's up, fellas?
Evening.
Evening.
How's it going?
It's a big old party up in here now. As soon as I do that. Okay. So welcome to Into the Fringe. I am your host, Cardinal Sin. This is my expert co-host, Mexican Ironman.
Mexican alien Ironman.
How are you today, sir?
Well, these nanoprobes can, they started by resculpting my face. These damn
You look
nanoprobes.
pretty buff.
Well, it's the nanoprobes. I mean, there's a little bit of you there, but they got into my eyeballs. They're working their. Let's just say they're working their way south of the border, if you know what I mean. These little nanoprobes.
Are they working their way back to you, man?
No, they're working their way down. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
running down his spine.
Bad.
Yeah. They're these little critters are everywhere.
Kylo, yeah. Tim, how are you today, sir?
Pretty good. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Mr. Thunderheart, how are you?
It's muted.
You're mostly silent because your mic isn't working. And Alex James, how are you today, sir?
Doing pretty good there, sir. How are you all doing?
We're doing fine. We just had a great shake it out seance moment. I think everyone's ready for the big news. We have some big news, gentlemen.
Oh, do tell.
We have some big news.
Can I make that noise of the typewriter?
So I have some announcements to make. and some housekeeping to get out of the way. And not even my expert guest host, Mexican Ironman, knows about these late developments.
No one tells me anything, nor gives me a lightsaber.
Upcoming guests for Into the Fringe. We're going to have guests from the UK, Philip Mantle, publisher of Flying Disc Press, and artist Jason Greaves, who worked together to make a statue of the Ugly One from the Pascagoula abduction case, based on Calvin Parker's book, from which they're making a graphic novel. And a screenplay about the case has already been written and gotten Parker's stamp of approval. UFO researcher Don Ecker, who was the head of research for UFO Magazine and has been broadcasting about UFOs since before Art Bell, will be on the show in several upcoming episodes.
What?
Don's own show, Dark Matters Radio, has been on the air as one version or another continuously for decades. His firsthand research about lunar anomalies and NASA's own high-definition photos of what's actually on the moon was the basis for the Sci-Fi Channel documentary Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed, which you can watch on YouTube, and features interviews with authoritative lunar experts, including astronaut Buzz Aldrin, analyzing never-before-aired NASA photos and using incredible 3D flybys of the lunar constructions to ask the sensational questions about whether the moon is potentially being used as a base and possibly a staging area by a mysterious race of alien beings.
I've been saying that forever.
Writer, researcher, podcaster, and UFO expert Micah Hanks will be joining us later this month. He's written several books. He has a long-running scientific UFO podcast and is a researcher of great renown in the UFO field. This is a real coup for us here on Into the Fringe. He was a guest I lined up for the Exozone that we're happy to bring to the show. We're in talks to bring on Albert Rosales, who had the largest humanoid database on the internet. His books on Amazon will allow you to browse cases of landing craft and occupant encounters for days, literally. We will also be bringing on Jim Peniston, who was an MP and a first-hand witness to the alien craft that landed in the woods at Bentwaters that researcher and author Peter Robbins wrote about in the classic book Left at East Gate.
Wait a minute. What do you mean you're going to have him on?
He's going to be a guest on the show.
Along with these others?
No, these are all separate shows.
But you've confirmed all of them so far.
Yep.
Are you done with the list, or is there more?
There's more.
What?
Jim
Holy
Peniston.
shit. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to shut up. I'm losing my mind over here. I'm like a little girl.
Jim Peniston, who was an MP and a first-hand witness to the alien craft that landed in the woods in the Bentwaters case that researcher and author Peter Robbins wrote about in the classic book Left at East Gate. Peniston not only took notes in his notebook, but actually touched the craft and saw and drew the glyphs that he saw on the side of the craft. He is a first-hand witness that was there at the orders of the deputy base commander, Charles Halt, who were also in talks to bring onto the show.
Hell no.
The world's foremost authority on cattle mutilations and author of 6 books, including Stalking the Herd, Christopher O'Brien is going to be on an upcoming episode of Into the Fringe. And of course, author, artist, and head of the Bud Hopkins Foundation, Peter Robbins, will be an upcoming guest and will probably be a recurring guest.
What?
As his research has uncovered many different paranormal fields. That's it for the housekeeping.
Mexican reaction, man.
You may now freak out at your heart's content.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it's I think it's fair to say that everyone who knows me on YouTube knows it's pretty hard to get Mexican Iron Man to shut up.
Yeah.
See, right there, Thunderheart. That was an opportunity for you to say, "No, Mike, that's not really true." You missed that opportunity, Rod. No, okay. All right. So for those of you, the few people that we have watching, and I hope this stream gets picked up later, which it will. You always
Rex
get
Smith is here. Hail, and John Rendell is here. Hail.
This list that you just put together, I dare say two things to it. One, there's no 3 or 4 seasons of Ancient Aliens or any shows on any of those channels that have delivered a list like that. Number one. Number two, that is a blowout list that blows out any 3-month run of Coast to Coast.
That's
back
right.
in the good old days or now.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to say this, but whether you're new to this entire field and you want to learn, or you're a black belt, which I am. I've read everything. I've seen everything. I've seen every show. And, been out there, done C5 stuff with Greer, all that stuff. Or you're black belt, level 1 udon, like I am. This is unfreaking believable. This is like a Hall of Fame.
And that's just to get us started.
Oh, I can't even handle this. Oh, my God. Okay, so I have a confession to make. And I was the one who pushed for us to do this on Tuesday and Wednesdays because I thought the Exozone was going to come back. Well, turns out, who knows if it will.
Exozone is smoked. It's gone.
And I'll tell you this, with that guest list you have right there, oh my God. Holy crap.
I said I had some announcements to make.
I don't remember the last time that he walked away from the screen.
I literally, guys, I'm going to hit mute. I'm going to walk away because I'm going to go scream like a little girl. This is unbelievable. I'll be right back. I'm going to go scream like a little girl.
Okay.
You forgot to mute.
No, he muted out.
Oh, shit. Hold up.
So, yes, it's quite a list, and we're looking very much forward to these guests. And this is not a wish list. This is a confirmed list. I didn't talk about the people that I'm kind of in sort of talks with. So it's just going to get better and better from here, my friends. Better and better.
Cool.
So, impressive list there.
It's not a bad list if I say so myself.
No, not at all.
So,
Hell of a starter.
because we have limited time, and this is our 10th episode, Viewer Experiences, I am going to turn it over to my expert co-host, Mexican Iron Man, and he is going to have the floor, and we're going to be quiet and listen. You're up. Mexican Alien Man.
Still muted, brother.
I know. He's the one who's short on time.
He might have passed out.
He could very well have. He might be on the floor palpating.
Maybe he was so stoked that he blew his mind, and he was like, right now he's like, maybe I better send some.
Blow a heart attack gasket or something.
Yeah,
You popped some alien cherries there for him.
We popped some kind of a stroke-inducing alien part of his suit. Doesn't he look buff though?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah,
Man.
totally.
Well, he does have to go first, and the rest of us can be here as late as we like. So,
Yeah, sure.
I will wait until Mexican Iron Man comes back. He is my co-host, and until then, I will hope you have an adult beverage with you, my friends, and I will drink to your very good health with a little vino.
Excelente.
I never drink wine. Does the body good.
Certainly cleans out the innards.
It does. It really opens the sluices at both ends, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Get you running like the bull.
Yep.
Mexican Iron Man, are you
I'm
with
back
us?
now. I'm not like a little girl now. I'm back.
Okay. Well,
Okay, bro, like that list right there, is like you're like if you were talking baseball, you're like, oh, well, we're gonna have Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio is gonna come back, and da 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 da. Nolan Ryan's gonna stop by, Reggie Jackson's gonna sign some autographs. Dude, with a list like that, can I invite my buddy from San Jose, David Pilates? He does the Can-Am Missing 411.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're into that stuff, but he's from San Jose. He's a detective.
Get him on the show. Missing 411 is like, that's my jam.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I mean, it's a little outside the scope of our.
Is his name Dave?
Yeah, David Pilates. Yeah, he was a San Jose detective for a lot of years, and I worked at City Hall while he was a detective, and that's where I first met him.
You know him personally?
Yeah, I'm a supporter of his channel as well.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know him like I know say Doomcock, but
totally
he knows of me and that kind of.
Please get in touch with him.
All right, cool.
I would love to have him.
If I can name drop that kind of list, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's right. If I can name drop that kind of list, you can know Dave.
So his son recently committed suicide, so I'm looping David into the thing that we're doing with the Snyder fundraiser as well.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I reached out to David. He's going to see if he can make an appearance on that stream when we're doing the fundraising and share his story.
That's great. Yeah, that would be the perfect time to do some of your alien Mexican man kung fu and
I won't be doing that in front of David Pilates, who's had 2 movies and 4 books. No.
I'm just saying it'd be a good time to mention the show.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When I bring him on the stream, and that's when I'm going to invite him on, and I'm pretty sure I can get him.
Awesome, that'd be great.
I know who I could probably get for 15, 30 minutes, but I know you wouldn't let him on the air.
Who's that?
Stephen Greer.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't let him on the air.
Would you play nice?
Oh, sure, yeah.
No, I mean really nice.
He's done a lot for the field. I don't
done a ton for the field.
I don't really like groove on his methods.
Wow, that's the nicest you've ever said that.
But well, hey, we're live.
David Pilates, huh?
But yeah, sure.
So my mom, when she was alive, can I go into the story?
Yeah,
it's all you, bro. I've had 2 what I'll call terrestrial or sightings, and then I've had 1 kind of crypto experience and 1 thing that happened that's just really weird. So I'm going to share 1 of those right now.
Okay.
So in New Mexico, my mom had moved to New Mexico with my stepdad, and they're in the middle of nowhere, like Lovington Hobbs, like literally in the middle of nowhere. And there was this one night where my mom was like, I can't believe, she's talking to herself coming down the hallway. She's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't see him. If I'd known that, I would have turned the light on sooner. And I'm like, are you talking about Dad? But he was like reading or doing something. He was in the front room. And she was like talking to herself. She's like, no, I'm talking. She says, no, don't worry about it. And so then she's cooking, she's making spaghetti and stuff, and which is one of my favorite dishes. And I just, got a weird vibe because I could tell like she was mumbling herself. I said, Mom, what the heck are you talking about? Or what's going on? She says, well, no, it's nothing. I was falling asleep, and I'd seen him before, but he just surprised me this time. I'm like, who? She says, the alien. I'm like, okay, what? I mean, she wasn't like, 80s, or 90s, or, I mean, this woman here is like, smart.
She was in her right mind.
Yeah, she was a calculator. Yeah, she has fast talker, brilliant mind. Worked at Intel, ran major manufacturing divisions. Anyway,
wow,
and very hardcore, super religious Catholic, like super religious Catholic, right?
Okay.
And she said the alien. I'm like, okay, and she never drank. No drinking, no drugs, no weed, none of that.
Right.
And so I said, what are you talking about? And she says, well, he comes by sometimes. And I don't always notice it, but this time I saw him out the window, and if I'd known he was going to come by, I would turn the light. I said, "Okay, you're absolutely." And she turned around. I said, and I was laughing at her, right? And she turns around, and so she does this. She's like, "Have I ever lied about anything that you know since the day you were born?" And I'm like real stern, like real defensive, like real, like I wouldn't say possessed, but like just real, like as if I had done something wrong, right? And, which I guess I had. I basically was saying she's a liar, right?
And I'm guessing that didn't go over too well.
No, she well, you know how Mexican Ironman can sort of get triggered sometimes once in a blue moon, and he goes off.
I know how that. Yeah.
Okay, you could have let me finish the sentence, Gil. Right there, you could have also said, "No, Mexican Ironman, you just have your own opinions." And
that's right. That's what I meant to say.
All right, anyway, whatever. Anyway, the point is, you think I get triggered? You think Doomcock gets triggered? She get triggered like a thermonuclear warhead on a dime, and stuff. And so anyway, so she gives me this look. Anyway, so let me get back to the start. So I'm sitting down at the table. She brings out the plate of spaghetti. Listen, she sits down and she looks me dead in the eye and she says, "Look," she says, "You kept asking me, so I told you." And I said, "How can you possibly believe in aliens?" I said, "You're hardcore, Catholic." She says, "Look," she says, "God creates all creatures." She says, "Who are you to think that He didn't create other beings on other planets that don't visit?" I said, the fact that I've seen aliens doesn't mean that they have to scare me. It just means that sometimes I see chickens. She said, sometimes I see chickens and I see wolves. And she said, and she says it's probably the third or fourth time. And I said, well, I haven't seen anything. She says, well, you also never look. You're always in your books and your comic books and your video games. And I'm like, yeah, whoa. I mean, I'm just here for a visit. Oh, whoa. And she says, you don't have to believe it or not, but even the church, this is what she said. She says, I've discussed this with our, what'd you say, the bishop, I guess? What do you have? Your priest?
Pastor?
Well, it was like the area guy. The bishop's in charge of the county, I think.
Of Canterbury.
Yeah, Archbishop. That's what it's Archbishop says. I discussed it with the Archbishop, and the church knows that there's more of God's creations than just us. And then she launches into, I don't know if it's a demon. I don't know if they're from another planet. I just know it's whatever it is. Ultimately, it's God's creation. And sometimes He comes by, and I see someone walking by, and I'm not scared. It's another God's creations. And then she just kept going, and then she baked a cake, and that was it.
And then she baked a cake.
Yeah, and then she it was dessert. She finished the story, and she said that was her matter of fact thing, and all that. So fast forward 2 more trips back to New Mexico, because I would visit probably once or twice a year. Mm-hmm. Now it's about 7 months later. Okay, I'm in my room, which is way in the back of the house, big old ranch house, windows all around the room, like floor to ceiling. Okay,
and windows all around the room.
Yeah, like let's say it's like the room shaped like an octagon. Walls on half of it, floor to ceiling windows on the rest of it.
Okay,
way off in the distance, I see what I think looks like. How do I say this? Like green and orange lights. I thought it was like a fire truck or some kind of ambulance. You know how you'll have sometimes emergency vehicles will have 3 or 4 lights on top. Mm-hmm. And so I saw this thing driving. I'm just like, well, what is it doing driving all the middle through the pasture? And then the lights dimmed and went fanned out, like 4 of them, vroom. Like a fan, in different directions, one to the left, one to the right, one to the left, one to the right. It went down to the ground, and then it looked like it was almost like a heat glow type of thing, and then just disappeared. Okay, this is about I'm gonna say it was dark. It was 8 or 9 at night. And then later that night, around 3 or 4 in the morning, I got up. I always seem to wake up around 3 or 4 in the morning and get water, and then try to go back to sleep, or I just get up and I stay up. I've been like that way for years. And I look in the back and I see this little 4 or 5 foot shadow. I won't say shadow person, but it looked like something solid walking way over Yip Yonder, maybe about 50, 60 yards out of the backyard in our pasture. And I'm not saying it was all it was is it's black in a form. I'm not saying it wasn't shadow. It wasn't I think it was I literally think it's an alien. I mean, I don't know, because I couldn't tell if it was gray. I didn't see eyes. It's because it was walking away, kind of
that far away. Depending on the lighting situation, you might not have been able to tell anything.
Yeah, and I would have been able to accept that it might have been a person trespassing through our property, going across the pasture, except for the fact that the way in which the body was angled, kind of like the walking angle, it just looked a little weird.
How weird?
Almost like forward leaning, but the legs are the legs were really far out. It's kind of like almost like as if you're walking back of your ankle first, but yet you're leaning over.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And stuff. And
I've heard Men in Black descriptions like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot. John Keel wrote about Men in Black walking like that. They'd never walked before, and they were off balance, and they were walking, with their body forward.
like that. Yeah, leaning forward, and then but not so much the knees bending, but it's back of the ankle first kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I about 3 or 4 days later, I told him, I said, I think I may have seen something. She says, well, I told you. You just got to look around, and there's a bunch of things you never noticed. Of course, my mom was really funny and sarcastic. She says, like, one of the things I see right here is I see that I went to Lowe's and Home Depot and got these new window shutters, and you haven't put them up yet in the last week. I'm like, okay, fine, okay. So anyway, so that's that. New Mexico, middle of nowhere, Hobbs, Lovington. Dude, just being out there feels weird. I'm telling you. I don't even want to get near Area 51 or Roswell. I'm just saying, being out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, freaky.
Even without the threat of deadly force.
Right.
You don't want to be out there. Okay. That's understandable. I can certainly understand that. And let's say hello to the Phantom Outsider. Hail. Montana Horseman is here. Hail. And who wants to go next?
I'll go, I guess.
All right. Let's go ahead and put you right up there. Let's hear it, Rod.
Wow. For years I never related this because, well,
people would think you were crazy.
Well, it's less of that and more that the time, which was I was coming home at 1:30 in the morning, and I'd had 6 beer, and the nearest town was like,
and everyone knows that beer makes you hallucinate.
Yeah,
nah,
exactly. So anyway, so I'm about half a mile from the farm, and right now where I am, and north actually, and I'm just coming, and then suddenly it just kind of like the whole area, like it felt like the whole, it was like daytime. It was like I was driving along, suddenly somebody, like it was so bright. It's like everything turned on. I'm like, what the, so of course I stopped the car. I'm like, what the, and I kind of sit there for a second, and after like several seconds, I suddenly realized that no, it's not daytime. A powerful light, something is being shone down on me, because I was like, what the, because I realized that no, I could kind of see further down the road, and everything was still dark. It was like a giant round light was being, powerful light was being shone down on me in the car. And it took me, it could be anywhere up to like 2 minutes, or even up to like maybe like 20 seconds. But I kind of like, I was like, what's happening? What's happening? Because I kind of, I said, I kind of became aware of like, okay, look left, look right. Okay, there's a circle of light being shone down on me. And I'm thinking to myself, do I really want to get out of the car? Because of course, like your brain at first kind of like, you're like, if it's really a UFO, like, am I going to get abducted? Is this, is this it? And like, but still, curiosity forced me out of the car, and I was just like, so I open the car door and I get out, and I look straight up, and like, yep, sure enough, a giant round powerful light is being shone down, like probably the most powerful, like it literally did look like daytime. And the space,
you don't hear any helicopter or anything.
Nothing. No, yeah. That's right. It's super silent.
Totally silent.
It's dead silent. I'm like, it's I'm like, I'm just, geez, what the. And I'm still well, between curiosity, I'm torn between curiosity and like terrified, because I'm like, okay, is this where I get sucked upwards, and like, like, is this the one, and at the time, but, and like for what seemed like an eternity, anywhere from like up to a couple of minutes, or again, probably maybe only just like probably only like about 30 seconds or something. And suddenly the light turned off, and like, I'm just like, whoa, and then suddenly like my eyes just kind of like took a few seconds to adjust, and then I kind of like, what the hell, and then I kind of like, okay, and like I realized there's a giant, huge triangle over me. Well, really, an isosceles triangle, like very pointed top, pointing north, and then the lesser angles are like further south of me, and I'm trying to discern, because this thing it felt like it could be like a quarter mile long, but on the other hand, it could have been 100 feet or something. But
Was it blocking out the stars?
it was blocking out all the stars. Like I couldn't, and then I kind of just sort of, I just staring at it, I realized that it's hard to, there's kind of like, it was like there's these little blocks on each edge, around on the edge, all around the edge. And I kind of realized there were 3 red lights. There was a red light there's a red light on each point.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I was aware of, like, there were kind of 3 circular discs, dark discs, which probably one of them was probably like the light that was being shone down on me. And again, I'm still like absolutely terrified. And then suddenly the thing was huge. Like it didn't feel very, very far above me either, which is, again, like I said, I'm just absolutely terrified. I mean, like, part of me wants to jump back inside the car. It's like, you're taking me, if you're going to take me, you're going to take the car with me too. But
like that's going to help.
Oh, totally. But I mean, it's just like, how the human condition is. It's like,
sure, yeah, I'm going to make it as hard as possible.
Yeah. So anyway, again, after like what feels like an eternity, and then finally, like, the object moved east from where I was, exactly east, and it didn't like turn to move east or anything like that. It just moved east, and then it's dead silent, but then all of a sudden, like, as it began to move away, then I became aware of, like, sort of a like a whoosh sound,
Mm-hmm.
like not loud, not, just something like, and like, I was like, again, I'm still kind of like, well,
did you feel anything like air moving?
I can't,
not that you recall.
Yeah, not that I recall. But it felt like it was probably like 100 feet above me, as I said. But like I said, it's like, and then it slowly moved east from me, which, as I said, the further away from me it went, like, the more I felt. I'm like, oh, whew, okay, so all right, I'm not going to be abducted, and just. There's still like, the doubting Thomas of me too. It's just kind of like, no, you know what that is? It's because I didn't get abducted. I thought to myself, no, you know what that is? I initially reasoned that, like, I'm like, well, okay, it's just some top secret army jet plane just being tested, and and I'm just like, that's the way my mind rationalized it. But, like,
sure.
There's just, as I said, I was aware of, like, the 3 red lights at each point of the triangle.
So let me ask you this: when it moved off to the east, you said,
yes.
Did it go slowly or did it go quickly?
No, it moved. It moved. Well, it appeared to be moved slowly, but I mean, like, in retrospect, I guess it probably was pretty fast, and then, like, it moved about quarter mile away from me, and suddenly, like,
but it wasn't like snap across the sky.
No, okay. No, that's right. But then once it got far enough away, then it started to speed up, and then suddenly, gone.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, the very fact that it went that fast, that's where I'm just kind of like, that ain't no secret army jet plane. I'm just kind of like, I'm just, despite the fact that it's gone, and despite the fact that I'm, and like, I'm here and didn't go with them or anything like that, I'm just kind of, there's still kind of just my heart's and right up in my throat. I'm just kind of thud, 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 thud. I'm kind of,
sure.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
because I was going to say, from the way you described the shape and the lights, it sounds like a TR-3B to me. But they typically don't have that super fast moving capability, you know.
I really can't. I really can't say. Has anybody watched Smallville?
I haven't.
No.
Yes,
No.
I have. I have.
Do you? Okay. Do you remember Supergirl's ship in season 7?
Yes, sir.
That's exactly what it looked like. Right there.
Wow.
Like whoever designed that ship or whatever like that. Right there. That's exactly what it looked like, you know. And like, if you could probably lift the thing up and then see underneath, you'd probably see like these three giant these three giant discs or whatever, which were probably the lights that, well, one of the lights that shone down, and I was like, you know, but like, yeah, no, like that, that's it. That's the ship that it looked like, you know. And I saw
Yeah,
some of these
the
triangles.
Belgian wave in 1991 were exactly the way you described your sighting. They were triangular. They had 3 lights, one on each corner, and they had a big light in the middle. And those were reported over Belgium. I mean, there was a 6-month long flap over Belgium, and they, as a NATO country, they, scrambled their fastest aircraft, and then they couldn't catch them.
Well, again, that's, you know, I mean, like it as I said, it moved slowly away from me, and then even then it started to move slowly north, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, and like, my guess is that, you know, maybe it moved away because perhaps, I don't know, maybe the surface, because something that large moving that fast displaces air, well, ridiculously, so like creates a vacuum. That's all I can think of is the reason why they didn't like take off like from overhead above me. That's all I would think. Either that, or they're just kind of like, all right, well, let's just let this guy crap his pants, and then
they might have been, being aware of you and knowing that if they had gone off to super speed, directly above you, that it could have caused you some harm or some damage.
That's what, yeah, I mean, that's one, as I said, that's one thing I kind of, you know, despite my heart being in my throat, I'm just still kind of like, I mean, as I said, the further away from me it went, the better I felt.
The better for you. I do want to say thank you to the Richard for being here. And the Phantom Outsider says he's seen it. And he says 31 years ago on March 30th to 31 in Belgium. So looks like what the Phantom Outsider saw was a TR-3B. Yeah, if they took off from right over you, they would have killed you.
That's, as I said, I mean, like, in retrospect, I kind of like, yeah, it felt like it.
Well, Richard, we are talking about personal paranormal and ufological experiences. Good to see you, Jimmy Saul. Always good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank everybody for being here. Tim, I understand you have some questions for Rod.
Yeah, I did.
No, sure.
So, are these like at the same time? Were you in the car and then got outside, or were you always in the car?
No. I was in the car, and then, like, as scared as I was, I'm like, my curiosity was more powerful, and I was like, I gotta see this. So no, I had to get out of the car, and then and then I got out and I looked straight up, you know, and like, that's, I will say though, I was glad, because I mean, because there's no way I could have discerned or figured anything out in the car, because like, even if they'd have shut the light off, you know, I mean, unless I stuck my head out the window, but I mean, like, there's just something that it just felt better if I'd have gotten out and then looked straight up, and which, yeah,
Braver than most.
well, as I said, my heart would say differently.
Yeah.
As I said, it was in my throat. I'm just kind of like,
I can tell that just you talking about it is kind of getting you going again.
well, mostly because I've never related it. Well, I've only related to people about 10 years after, at least, because I was like, I mean, I came home from the bar. I'd had 6 beer, and honestly, well, I mean, as a kid, well, I shouldn't say I was, well, no, because I was 27, 27, 28. I just didn't want to tell anybody because they knew I'd been to the bar, so I didn't oh, and by the way, when I came home from the bar, I saw this giant ship that shone a light down on me, and and then I mean, of course, then you're kind of oh, everybody's yeah, well, yeah, sure you did. Oh, I was so no, I never, although in retrospect, I feel really stupid in the sense that I should have written it down. I should have wrote down the time, and I mean, the location, it's just a little north of the farm here.
Here's a question for you.
And the date.
Did you report what you saw?
Again, scared shitless, so no. To anybody, I mean.
Hail, Lawrence Martin. Thank you for being here. Well, folks can check out my Stanton Friedman lecture, which dropped last week. And at the end of his lecture, he asks how many people out of the audience that think they've seen a UFO or a flying saucer. And, then he asks those people, how many of you reported your sighting? And he said, typically it's only 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20. And usually the reason that they give is, people would think I was nuts. So I was just curious about that. Rod, do you have more to share, or is that it?
That's more or less it. I mean, I'm just after getting slowly getting my bearings, get back in. And I realized then I realized that, I'd shut the car off too. And
had you shut it off, or did the craft shut it off?
You know what? That's actually a really good question. I don't know. You know what? I don't think I shut the car off.
Did it start back up when the craft left?
Oh yeah. Because it was long gone, and I'm sitting there and I'm just and then yeah, you're right. I mean, because I got in the car and then I think part of me thought I must have shut the car off, and then and again too, don't forget I'm still 6 beer happy,
Right,
and
right.
So then there's a lot of things you just kind of don't really rationalize, but then I mean, I just realized that the car was off, and I there's
left
no way
the
I would
keys
shut
in
the
it.
car. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Keys were in it and everything. I just I just stopped, put it in park, and I'm just sitting there for a second. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Some lights shining on around me, and I was like, what the?
Right.
And then I'm as I said, I'm scared shitless, but I'm curiosity got the better of me, and I'm just I gotta see what this is, what the hell this is. Open the door, and then I look up, and I'm just staring up at this super bright light, and then suddenly anywhere from several seconds to maybe a minute later, the light shuts off, and I just kind of blink, and I kind of whoa, and then and then I realized that there's a giant triangle right over me, maybe anywhere from, I felt like it was about 100 feet, and again it blocked out all the stars, and I'm sitting there kind of what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? And as I said, and I never thought about it until later. Hey, the car was off. and then I get in and turn, but like the car just it fired right up. I mean,
So
was,
you turn the ignition and you turn the car back on. It didn't start back up by itself.
No. You know what? I just realized the ignition was on, but it was off. And that's another thing that I'm like, holy cow. I mean, like, remember, this is a drunken guy that just kind of like, oh, the car's off. Okay, I'll turn the key off and then turn it back on. And it fired right up. And again, I never really even, that's a detail that I absolutely never even thought of.
Interesting.
I can't believe I missed that. But yeah, no, the keys were on and the car was off. And like, but again, this is it. I mean, like in my drunken stupor, I was just like, oh, car's on. Okay, fine. Turn it off.
Well, I mean, let's face it. 6 beers over however long it took you to drink it. You probably weren't like stumbling, falling down drunk, like you couldn't drive.
No, definitely not. Although, like I said, I mean, like, remember, this is still
you were lit, probably, but
happy.
One of the sort of dead giveaways that you've had a real UFO experience is if your car undergoes a power fail, the field around the craft shuts down your car, and it sounds like that's what happened to you. Honest to God, I can't believe I missed that. But I mean, like, I've never really had to have related it to anybody. And then and just now I'm like, Jesus Christ, the car was off. And then I'm just like, how the hell did I miss that? Like, but no, yeah, absolutely. Like the car was off and like, it never even struck me. And then like, because I'm sitting there dumbstruck watching this giant thing move east to me, and then slowly moved north, and then suddenly took off. And like that, it was, and that, as I said, and now that I think about it, it was like suddenly like when it was just, again, it moved north the same speed, and then suddenly, and that's where I'm like, I'm like, there ain't no army jet that like does that. Let me interrupt you briefly here. My expert co-host, Mexican Ironman, has to leave us. So let's all say our goodbyes.
Thanks for popping in, man.
Sorry, boys. Things are hell for a couple weeks, and I gotta go get ready for another client real quick.
Yep. Well, thanks for being here.
Back in 45 minutes, if you're still here.
Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be here.
Oh, all right, love you guys. Thanks for sharing. I'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah. Catch you on the next chat, or Armano.
Right on. Okay, Mr. Alex Man.
Yes,
the floor is yours, and we shall be quiet and listen.
Spill it. Okay. You got it. I've got 3 separate instances that I can bring up. They all come from the 1990s. And the first one was in 1996. I'd been out of high school about almost 2 years at this point. And me and one of my best friends, he came over. We did some drinking at the house. So, Rod, I can definitely abide by that. But we didn't go nuts or nothing. We just, had a couple just to loosen up because we were talking about drawing and writing and stuff because that was, Image was the thing, and we were trying to get in with Image Comics and things like that. So about 2:30 that night, it was February, I'd say somewhere in about later February. It was cold as hell out. Snow was out, and he had to walk home because he had walked over. So I was like, no, I'll drop you off. That's no problem. So we got my my Skyhawk, and we were getting ready to leave, and I don't remember exactly who it was. One of us looked at the sky and said, "Hey, do you see what I see?" And the other looked up, and what we seen defies logic because it wasn't just a UFO. It was a lot of UFOs, and they were triangular shaped. We've seen pictures since then that look like, there've been artist conceptions where they got like running lights underneath, like a couple at each corner, and then they got like almost like tubular running the whole diagram of the bottom.
How many objects total are we talking about?
Well, at first we thought maybe 20. This was at first because it was cloudy at that point.
Well, so you saw like a whole fleet.
Oh yeah, and it gets better because when we got to where him and his grandfather were staying at the time, he was about to get out, and he took another look out, and he goes, "Dude, you got to take a look back in the sky now." And I looked out there, and there was a lot more. It was like almost like an armada. The whole sky was dotted, but they seemed to be heading northeast. So we both, of course, and very adventurous, being 21 years old, whatever. He got back in the car, and we decided to go up to Lakeview Park, which is on Lake Erie, because we both grew up in Ohio. This is all taking place outside of Cleveland. And
Cleveland.
Bam, bam, bam. Yes, Cleveland. So we made it to Lakeview Park, and I parked the car, shut off, and we both got out of the car, and we watched them. We watched them just moving. It looked like they were going slow, but obviously they were going quick because it's an optical illusion when we see things moving. Like when we're in a car, things are going by slow, but when people are watching us go by, it's fast.
And what color were the objects?
From what we seen at the time, they were just dark, except for the blue lights. And that was all.
You didn't say anything about blue lights. Tell us about the blue lights.
I thought I did when I first announced it. Yeah, because there's like lights that was at the underside at the 3 points. But there was also like a running, almost like a neon kind of light structure that ran from point to point to point. But they weren't, how should I say it? They weren't bright. They were subluminous, basically. So that's why we couldn't make anything out, just the colors. And
I see.
By the time we got to Lake Erie, there was really no clouds in the sky. So we just sat there. We're laughing. We're giggling. We're like, look at this shit. This is crazy. And you were like, there's no way in hell anybody's going to believe this. We sat there, we watched, and then eventually they made it far enough in the distance, and he's just like, you want to go back to my place and get another couple of beers? Like, yeah, why not? This was crazy enough. Nobody was tripping on LSD. We didn't do drugs. So, we went, got a couple more beers, and that was that. And to this day, I was hoping he would actually be in the chat, but unfortunately he had some stuff come up in the family dealing with COVID, so that pushed that out. But anyways, we have from time to time brought that up. One of us will say something. He'll be like, hey, dude, you remember that when we seen that? Or I'll say, hey, you remember that? Every couple of years we remember it because it was so weird, especially for the fact that there was nothing in the news, nothing in anything. Nobody
else reported it or saw it. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And then, the thing of it is like with the amount of cars on the road, when we were heading to Lakeview Park, there was literally 2 or 3 cars that passed us, and that was it. By the time we were leaving, there was no cars. So yeah, nobody is, hail Dr. Herky Monkey. Nobody was on the road, so nobody was apparently seeing it. Everybody was sound asleep. But him and I talked about this, and like I said, later times and in more recent times, I theorized that since electromagnetism seems to be such an important factor in these things, perhaps they were encased or enveloped ensconced, if you will, in electromagnetic fields that shuts off electronics that would come out, like a cloaking device without being cloaked.
Or the field propulsion enveloped the craft.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're physically being seen, but on radar they wouldn't be picked up by anything, right? Because at that time we had, we would still sit there and say, wow, this is crazy. This is like Hangar 18 stuff.
There's a large Air Force base near Cleveland, is there not?
There's I think there's a couple of them there. No, I was just saying, like, for example,
I mean, there's Wright-Patterson in Dayton.
Yeah, Hangar 18, right, precisely.
But there's one even closer to Cleveland, isn't there?
Yeah, I just the name escapes me because we didn't really hear much about it over the years, and like I said, this stuff was interesting to us because stuff don't scare us.
If you had to guess, how many total would you say objects you saw?
At least 100. At least.
Wow.
I put that on my brother and my sister's graves. That's exactly what we seen.
Was there a mothership that you saw? Did you stick around to see how they left the area? What?
We did see them get to the horizon heading further towards eastwards towards Cleveland. that's when we just decided to pack the bags, because there was, once the whole fleet had passed over, there were no stragglers. So we decided to go from there. If there was a mothership, which we were looking for, and we thought we might have seen it in the midst of it, but it was kind of hard to make out when you got everything looks the same. It's like, clones, and it's hard to find the one who actually has red hair when all the others have copper red hair. Your eyes play tricks on you. So we just let that go, and that was it. But we kept it alive all these years because we remember what we saw, and we still, like I said, vicariously do talk about it. But the second one, ironically, was the Phoenix Lights, and I had nothing to do with that. My father, my mother, and my dad's parents saw the Phoenix Lights. They were coming back from Laughlin, and that was on because March 13th is my parents' birthday, ironically. So they were out there, doing this stuff.
Both of them?
Yeah, all four of them actually, because it was my parents and my dad's parents.
Wow.
So, yeah, they were on their way back to Phoenix when they seen that, because we moved out to Phoenix eventually, or Arizona, and I was back in Ohio at the time, watching the house by myself. My sister was with my parents.
Like you get a call and they're like, you wouldn't believe.
Not quite. They basically what happened, because how my parents are with it, they came back home, and then a couple days into after being back from the trip and unpacking their whatever, like, hey, we seen some UFO stuff over there, and they didn't know what the Phoenix Lights was because it didn't have a name.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah,
but they're like, yeah, we was with your Baba and Tata, and we seen, this is what we seen in the sky, and like, holy crap. And that made me think about, again, what I just said about the Armada over, getting over Lake Erie.
Yeah.
But yes, that was nice to know that that I was attached to that without even directly being involved with it. But the last thing that I had, I've seen shooting stars and stuff like that. Well, I could tell you something my father seen a couple of years ago, but I'll get this other one out the way real quick.
Yeah, let's stick to the personal experiences.
Right. I was with my mom, and we was at the house still when we were in Ohio, and I'd gotten home from work. I was getting cleaned up and stuff, and went back to my room, and I'm sitting on my bed looking out the window, and I see a southern star, which is odd because its positioning was in the sky just above the tree line. And it looked like the North Star, but too low to be a star. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, this isn't natural. It appears to be moving. So I looked away. I would look away every couple seconds. That way I could gauge if it is moving. It's not, my eyes playing tricks. And yeah, sure, shit. It got above the tree line. So finally I just got up, went back to the kitchen. I got my mom. I said, you want to see this? There's a UFO, not right now. So she came running to my room, and we both were kneeling at my window watching. And she's like, that's crazy. I said, well, too bad we're too far away to see if it's shaped like the ones I seen or the ones like you guys seen. But then it started doing weird pattern movement in the sky. I mean, defying gravity. Like making, I don't know, like it made a four, like the Fantastic Four's 4. And then it, or maybe even the pentagram or the Star of David, perhaps, because it was just moving in different ways,
angles.
And then, yes, sir. And then it just zoomed off into the horizon.
Did you get the impression that it was putting on a performance for you?
Yeah, if not for us, then for anybody who may be watching it, yes. And my cousin and I, we talked about stuff like this, I don't know, maybe a decade and a half ago. And because he was sitting there wondering, because we were watching Star Wars, ironically, Return of the Jedi. And he goes, I wonder if there's a way we can gauge the difference between man-made UFOs and like authentic stuff. I said, there is, I'm sure. He goes, then he looks at me and goes, what the hell makes you such an expert? I go, dude, to me, it just seems like this. Man-made UFOs will probably vanish into the horizon like a plane would. It would just fly, right? It defies gravity, perhaps, yes, but it still flies out into the horizon. A real UFO would be one that, like the
flying saucer.
Yes, like the ones the Russian MiGs had chased in Russia, where the one dropped through the lake and the other one went to the solid ground, just phased through the ground because it shifted vibrational frequency and just phased right through. That to me would be the real,
or the ones that the American government demanded that pilots shoot down and shot away at fantastic speed.
Yes, absolutely. Like Foo Fighters.
Well, yeah. Except Foo Fighters were seen in both the Pacific Theater and in the European Theater, and all sides thought they were secret weapons of the other side.
Right. Yeah. It was one of those. I thought that was with you guys type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, was that your third one, or did you have another one?
No, that was it. I was able to, yeah, because unfortunately I never got probed. Thank God. I never
Yeah.
I never shared a beer with one. Unfortunately, maybe there's alien DNA. I don't know, but that's that. Yeah, those were the extent of the experiences. I mean, I've seen from time to time stuff in the sky like that, even in Phoenix. But stuff that just really quick. So it could be anything. It could be a shooting star eventually. But those particular 3 stories cannot be explained away by my rational mind because there's just too much weird stuff that goes with them.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks very much.
Absolutely.
And we will go ahead and move on to Kylo Tim.
Kill the past if you have to.
Live long and prosper.
Alex, you may have met an alien. You probably don't even know it.
That's very true, brother. That's very true.
Michael Jackson. Just kidding. Yeah.
Scary movie 3.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the first instance I want to bring up was like a couple.
And Tim, you're coming through really loud and clear. So just so you know.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first instance, not first instance, but it happened a couple months ago. It was a random winter night. It was about 8:30. It was like 40 degrees. 8:30 Eastern time. I live in Indiana. I was walking outside. I was going to the gas station to get like a pop, whatever. I was going to do some gaming. And so anyways, I'm walking down the road, and there's a house probably half a football field away from me that has like a sign, the typical sign, no trespassing or whatever. But it's not like I was going to their house. I was just walking the road because it was all lit up because the sidewalks are way too dark, even for my little town. But anyways, walking towards there. Right across the street from there is a church, and then they have this big backyard, fenced backyard. And I have my headphones on like right now, but they were like wireless, and I have my big coat on because it's kind of cold. But I like to go on walks and think, and it's just nice being outside and not being stuck inside all day. But anyways, I was minding my own business, looking towards where I'm going next. I was using the alleyways, and then I kind of have like a little spidey sense for a second. I just sense something. I look over, and at the corner of my eye, I see something like a predator mode. You know how a predator goes into like phase mode? It went into phase mode. I could tell something was there, and I just I was just tensed up, and I started going kind of fast, and I looked back and nothing was there. And I just when I walked back, when I went to the gas station, got my pop, I went a whole different direction to avoid it. So that's my first, not my first, that's the first topic that what I wanted to bring up. So I've never had any experience like that before. So I don't know what that would be.
That's pretty scary. That sounds like they would be scary to anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like a ghost or like an alien or demon, whatever. So I just thought it was kind of creepy. So I didn't go that way. I tend to not to go that way, even not drive that way at night. But my second thing, I would say I don't think I've had any real alien interactions. More like I guess supernatural or
ghostly.
Ghost type. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah. But anyways, another one. Yeah. So another one. When I used to go to sleep at night, I won't have my blanket. Well, I won't have my feet out. I always have my blanket cover my feet because I used to have sometimes every now and then I'll have a dark figure. I feel like sitting at the end of my bed, just staring at me. And then sometimes when I'm sleeping or whatever, even when I'm perfectly fine, there's some nights where I know I'm not going to sleep. I'm like, all right, I know I'm effed. I'll have to turn my light on because I feel like when I turn my light on, I feel like I'm safe. But when I turn them off, I'm not, because I can feel like a presence. And I feel like I'll start hearing things, or I feel like my body will tense up, and I feel like, I don't know if I'm sometimes if I'm in the in-between zone where you're asleep and awake, that in-between. So I thought that sometimes, but then other times, it's a consistent thing. So I don't think it is. But sometimes I felt like someone was just messing with me. I try to fall asleep and you'd hear something like in your name, like someone's in your name or like talking in your ear, like,
That's called a hypnagogic state. When you're in that liminal area between wakefulness and sleep.
Yeah.
And I had just to cut in briefly, I had a really strange experience yesterday. Mexican Ironman, my expert co-host was helping me prepare for tonight. And he was off doing, whatever. And I thought we were done. And over my speaker system, my computer speakers, which are hooked into my stereo, I hear him say, "Gil." And I'm like, what the hell? How are you coming through my computer? What do you want? I'm recording. You're probably interfering with my recording. Gil. And it's Mike's voice. And I'm like, what? And so I called him and I was like, what do you want? He was like, dude, I'm busy. So it wasn't him. It wasn't him. Anyway, please continue.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I've had several of those moments and it'll be like a woman's voice or like something like that. And then like other times, there's another time where I was in my bed. Well, I've stayed at my mom's house. Like she lives in like an hour away. And this when I was far younger or like high school or whatever. And I would stay there and I would just like, no one would be there. And I was like, I'd hear noises and stuff. I'd be like, Mom, are you there? And I just kept hearing them. And then like, I again felt like I was being messed with. Like when I was laying down, like someone's like grabbing you or whatever. So, and then like sometimes I'd see like a dark shadow, like if I have like in a hallway and I leave my like door open or something like that. And I see like something pass like the corner of my eye. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I think it's a matter of just like intense dreams sometimes, but then just I feel like I'm getting messed with before I try to go to sleep. And then I'll have those sleepless nights. But moving to my third thing, I think it's pretty interesting.
But before you do, I wanted to ask you, are you familiar with sleep paralysis?
I've heard that term. What is it exactly?
Sleep paralysis is what the human body engages in when you are sleeping. It keeps you from falling out of bed. It keeps you from rolling, like I guess in the caveman days, it keeps you from rolling into the fire. Basically, we paralyze ourselves when we're asleep so that we don't injure ourselves while we're asleep. And, we'll toss and turn a little bit, but the process of sleep paralyzes the body. So there's a sort of a liminal zone in between sleep and wakefulness where you'll wake up, but your body is still paralyzed, and you'll be totally awake, but you can't move. And a lot of the paranormal encounters that people have had are written off to sleep paralysis. So
Gotcha.
I was curious if you thought maybe that might factor in.
Possibly. Like I've had that where, one time where I couldn't wake up, or I felt like I was just stuck. I tried to wake up, but I wouldn't wake up. But the other times I was clearly awake. Like it was like right before I was going to go to bed, I'm laying down and I'm not asleep. And then, I start laying down as soon as I close my eyes and about to fall asleep. And then I felt like I'm getting messed with. And then that's when I start hearing like the voices or whatever, and then that's when I like start hearing stuff or seeing like the dark shadow figure at the end of my bed. So I mean, it could be some of that, but then also, I mean, it's happened repeatedly throughout the years, and I've had other relatives similar experiences as far as like being sensitive, I guess is what, force sensitive or whatever. But the third,
No, I'm sensitive too.
yeah, because like some areas you can feel like when you walk into a place, you can just feel it, like the pressure. You can just feel like this aura.
No, that's
per
right.
se.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
yeah, right.
Exactly right.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I would definitely not want to sleep here tonight.
Bad
So
vibes.
yeah. But anyways, another one I wanted to bring up a dream catcher. What a dream catcher is for. Then I'll go into my little tidbit about this. A
Okay.
dream catcher is a protective talisman that is used to protect people from nightmares and bad dreams. Native American cultures believe that both good and bad dreams fill the air at night. Dream catchers act like spider's web by trapping the bad dreams or visions while allowing the good ones to filter through. Okay, so I've owned a dream catcher before. I used to live in Washington State. I moved to Indiana in middle school. My mom's from there. My mom is considered biracial, Native American, and I've had relatives up that lived in reservations as well. So we used to go to the Chief Seattle. Chief Seattle Day it's a big powwow, big celebration, and they handcraft a lot of the stuff. And
we have a really similar thing here in Lawrence, Kansas, where Haskell Nation Indian University is. They do powwows and all that kind of thing too. And so yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. So anyways, I got a dream catcher, and I got this really cool orca well necklace, just like Free Willy necklace, but it was like, handmade. It was legit. But anyways, so I got the dream catcher, and it might have been fine for the first couple of days, but it almost was like counteractive. It brought like more intense dreams. Like I had the most intense dreams of my life. Like if anyone's ever taken melatonin at night,
sure.
sometimes sometimes it works for people, but sometimes it doesn't. Melatonin gives me super intense dreams, so I don't
really. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I take melatonin every night.
I agree with that because I've had
I
it.
never remember my dreams.
Yeah, Alex, they make my dreams like so real. Like I'll wake up and I'll be like, like in like a sweat or something. I'm just like, okay, not again. It's like you're worn out before you even wake up. So, but yeah, the dream catcher was like counteractive and gave me super intense dreams and like nightmares to the worst.
It was counterproductive.
Yeah, counterproductive. Hey,
Really?
am I super loud? Like, am I still super loud?
You're a little loud, yeah.
Okay, I don't know how to adjust that. Okay.
Fine in my cans. Yeah, I can hear you. You're not too loud in my earphones.
Okay.
I'm good.
No.
Gotcha. All right, I'll stand a little back, but anyways, I felt like it wasn't working, and then when I got rid of it, I wasn't having them for a while anymore. But I feel like maybe those ones were just bad ones, or maybe I just needed more or something like that. But it goes back to like all my childhood and growing up, even today, I still have like intense nightmares and all this. And I'm not the only sibling that has this stuff. And then my mom gets really bad, like stuff just like me. And so, yeah, those are
runs in the family.
Yeah.
Tim, let me ask you something. Did you buy the dream catcher or was it given to you?
I bought the dream catcher. I've had a dream catcher given to me, of course. My uncle used to make them, but this one I bought. My parents bought those kids.
They should be given to you. If they're bought, if money is exchanged, then that means that negates their purpose.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Yeah.
I'll remember that.
I have
one.
Yeah, which probably explains why you've had nightmares when you did have it.
Yeah, I could see that. Alex, what were you saying?
I I was just saying, yeah, I have a dream catcher because my father gave it to me. But the irony is, as far as the dreams are concerned, I haven't had a nightmare since I was 13 years old. I'm 45 now. I have not had that. This goes long. I didn't get the dream catcher until about 10 years ago. So I've been nightmare free. I don't know what it was. I'll just say this: I used to have really, really bad nightmares where I was being murdered, torn apart by sharks, and this was even real young before I even knew what a shark was. So it was weird stuff, but all kinds of stuff like that. Falling, being pushed out of a plane to my death, all kinds of weird stuff. But then, like I said, once I hit puberty, no more bad dreams. I have not. I mean, I've woken up in sweats because of my body temperature, but never because of a nightmare.
I need to
Interesting.
I need to get like a gold-plated, big old like super-powered dream catcher or something. Someone has to hand it to me like a ceremony.
Sounds to me like you got a skinwalker catcher.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
Yeah, that thing done thrown away. We burnt it. Like my dad was like, he took this off. He's like, screw it. Or I forgot what he said, but literally threw it in our little cabin fire or whatever, or little.
Interesting.
Listen to the spirit scream as they go up the chimney.
Yeah.
Tim, have you ever seen the Stephen King movie Dreamcatcher or read the book?
I've seen Dreamcatcher like years ago, but I would have to Google that real quick to see. But tell me about it.
It's just, I think it's the best adaptation of a Stephen King story that's been made into film.
Okay.
And that's saying quite a bit because I really like Pet Sematary. I really like Firestarter. There's a lot of Stephen King movies that I like. I like the original, The Stand. Even The Outsider that was made last year, I think, or the year before, was good. It had what's his name?
We lost Rod.
It had the guy who was in. He was the Imperial officer in Rogue One.
Okay.
If you remember, the really dry humor, sarcastic.
You're talking about Krennic?
Krennic, yeah. Ben
Krennic.
Mendelsohn.
Yeah,
Ben Mendelsohn. That's his name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's in The Outsider, and he's just a great actor.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Cardinal, have you used Sage before? I did it before. I did Runway for a Native American oriented brand, and we did. They were all about sage and with having that good energy. And whatever the sage we did before, we all sat around and like a circle. We stood around in a circle, and they did like this little prayer. And I don't know what else they said, but like I was all super tense, and so was everyone else. But afterwards, it was just like good vibes from after that. So
good deal.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear that you shook that.
Yeah, it works. Well, it worked at that time, but yeah, that's pretty much my stories.
All right then. So it's all the Cardinal Sin then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. It is.
All right. Well, don't say I didn't warn you. This stuff will either make you think I'm crazy or shake you to the core, or both. And I'm even holding some stuff back. Last year or 2019, I don't remember, I had a UFO sighting. I was coming home from the supermarket, and I had a grocery bag in each arm, and all I could do was watch, because the two objects that were, that I could see were about to go behind my house. I saw them for less than 10 seconds. At first, I thought they were planes, but they were too big. I thought I saw like an FAA light on one, but it disappeared, and I didn't see that again. And they flew together and apart as if they were lovebirds, very organically. But planes that did that would crash. They would never do that because they got within like a degree or two of each other, and they were traveling sort of lazily from south to west. And, you know, I couldn't like reach into my pocket and grab my phone or anything. Although if I had, I would have gotten really good footage. But later it occurred to me how absurd it was, as if it were a performance for me alone. And I wrote down all the details, but I couldn't find the document today. It's on a different computer or something. And a lot of sightings seem absurd to the viewer, and also like they're showing off or making a performance for one or a very small amount of witnesses. So that's my most recent UFO experience. When I was 12, I had a pair of astronomical binoculars that my dad gave me. I still have them. They're 30x, 30 times power. And I was out looking at the constellation of Orion. Otherwise, I would never have seen this object because it went directly across the constellation of Orion. If I hadn't been looking directly at it, I would never have seen it. So, you know, it was almost zero chance at all. And it was in a horizontal, like diamond position, you know, and I ran in to get my brother, and he just stayed on the couch watching the football game. He's like 10 years older than I am. And he said it was probably a U-2 spy plane, which made no sense to me because I was like, why would a U-2 spy plane be over Kansas with its running lights on? You know? So, like I said, that didn't make any sense to me. It was in a diamond shape. It was going really smoothly across that field of vision that I just happened to be looking at. Otherwise, there's no way anyone could possibly have seen it. I don't think I was an abductee, although Mark Davenport did. But I dated a girl that definitely was. And we lived in the basement apartment of her mom's house. Her mom had seen a huge frog at the edge of her bed. And I experienced a lot of wild shit down there. I ended up driving her to Kansas City several times a month for hypnotic regression. And she never told me a single thing about what it had uncovered, which I think is because that's what her hypnotherapist told her, not to talk about it. I've had a lot of weird experiences with things in that basement apartment. For example, you know, when it was nice out, we would have the window open, the basement window open, and I heard what sounded like a helicopter, but it didn't like fade in and fade out. It was just like chugga 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 chugga, really fucking loud. And you know, it just started out of nowhere and it just stopped. It didn't fade out, it didn't fade in. It was just like chugga 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 chugga, really loud. And another time I heard what sounded like a huge dog breathing, like right outside the window. And it also just started and then just stopped. And on both occasions, I couldn't get my girlfriend to be quiet so I could listen to either one. She just talked all the way through, you know, each of these experiences. And I was trying to get her to be quiet. And I think I even said, shut up, I'm trying to listen. But something made her talk so that I couldn't hear clearly, which sounded strange, you know, in retrospect. And she worked at Wild Oats, which was about half a block from her house, and it used to be an office supply store. So it had huge bay windows all along the west side. And near the memorial stadium of the university here in Lawrence, where the University of Kansas is, a helicopter came over the ridge where one couldn't possibly be, and it was pointed straight at me. And I'm looking at it and I'm like in disbelief, because I know there's nowhere for a helicopter to take off from or land. And then it descended back behind the ridge where it's impossible for a helicopter to be. And I've had a lot of weird helicopter encounters. One white helicopter without rotors was pacing me as I was driving east down 6th Street, which is one of the main drags here, but it was going backward. So, white helicopter going backward, no rotors, no top rotors, no end rotors, nothing. I had a lot of weird experiences in my room when I was taking care of my mom. Once, when my television was off, there was a quarter-sized alien head, like a gray alien head, that bounced from the bottom right to the middle top to the bottom left, like it was a game of Pong. And I said out loud, "I know that's not what you really look like. Show me what you really look like." And remember, my TV was off. And I saw what Carla Turner called a holographic projection of a 360-degree alien head slowly spinning. And it had wrinkled elephantine skin. It was old. Somehow I knew that was what they really looked like. Another time, I was laying in bed at night. I'm an insomniac, and I have been since I was a little kid. And I heard electronic beeping coming from about 6 inches inside the wall next to my bed. It sounded exactly like a truck backing up. Beep, beep, beep. And because I was so familiar with the literature, I knew exactly what that meant. And I instantly became terrified, because abductees report hearing that noise before and after experiences. And I instantly became terrified. I turned over and I went right to sleep when I was shot through with terror. I asked my mother once if she'd heard any unusual helicopter activity near the house. And she said, "Oh, yeah. Once at 3:30 in the morning, a helicopter hovered over the house really low." And I asked her, "For how long?" And she said, 45 minutes. And I was amazed that she never mentioned it until I asked, because she knew how interested I was in, UFOs and paranormal phenomena. So from my childhood to my late 30s, I experienced really weird shit, including my mail being tampered with, opened and resealed, bizarre electronic noises on the telephone, which weren't the modem. I've had stranger experiences still that I won't go into here. I've tanked my reputation already. When I started a student group at KU, the KU UFO Network, and began promoting UFO lectures, I turned it into Third Eye Productions, all of which the lectures are now on the channel, and You can view them either all at once or in segments, including Stanton Friedman's 3-hour plus lecture from last week. I had a lunch with Stanton Friedman from the day of the lecture, and we had a very interesting conversation. I put on Mark Davenport's lecture with his then wife, Leah Haley, and put on her lecture as well. The local news covered it, and both nights sold out. Both are available on this channel, the Cardinal Sin channel. I put on Bill Caulfield's lecture and went to the University Daily Kansan, the university newspaper, to put an ad in. And they ended up doing an article on it in which I mentioned that students that presented a student ID would get in for only $5. And the turnout was so big that they had to remove a wall at the Holiday Inn Holidome and add more seating. And our first birthday party and Bill's lecture are both available on the channel for you to watch, absolutely free. I would like to take a quick break here and mention, please subscribe and share all the lectures and videos out on your social media. If you enjoy the content, please hit that like button and hit that notification bell so you know when shows are debuting. I would really appreciate the help getting the word out so I can grow the channel. So now we're going to get really strange. When I was growing up, I had 2 psychic tutors. The first one, and the second one. And I learned how to read auras. And for some reason, these paranormal experiences always happened at Perkins. And so my first psychic tutor is trying to show me how to see an aura. And, he's telling me, put your hands together and feel sort of the life energy, between the two. And nothing was working. We did this for hours. And suddenly he just said, you know how it feels when you're, holding 2 magnets together with opposite poles and they push away from each other? Do that with your hands. And for some reason that clicked. And I was like, oh, wow, I can feel that. And he said, okay, now look at it. And I could see it. And it's that sort of Spielbergian blue color, like in Poltergeist. And then he said, now look up. And I looked up and I could see everybody's aura in the restaurant, including him and his wife and just everybody. And eventually, this is when I was in high school. Eventually, I saw a guy that didn't have one. And I asked my psychic tutor about that. And he said, well, that's a guy that sold his soul to Satan. And, I don't know what to make of that now because I don't believe in Satan. But
I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, did you do some type of chakra type thing? Because I've studied and done a little bit of research about like the chakra and like
there was no awakening. There was no damn it, I'm missing the word for the energy that goes up your spine.
Kundalini.
Yeah. Kundalini. There was no Kundalini awakening. There was no chakra awakening. It was literally an academic instruction. And suddenly, boom, that's what it took to get me there. And since then, I've made the wind start and stop. I had a friend who was Native American, and this really freaked him out because his grandfather was a shaman, and he'd never seen a white man do what I could do. I made the rain start and stop, both of these things at his urging, because he was like, okay, well, if you've got these abilities, let's see you make the wind start and stop. And I did. And then, okay, make the rain start and stop. And I did. And when my family was in Israel, I learned how to body surf, which I really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. And then the last day that we were there, the waves were too small to do any body surfing on. So I just sort of intuited how to make the waves bigger, and they did. And so this first psychic tutor of mine took me out to our local lake, which was created by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Native Americans that lived in this area had built a mound. It's called Sanders Mound, and it kind of had this not very steep incline. But when the Corps of Engineers came in, they made the hill bigger, and it went from being like this kind of an angle to this kind of an angle. And so my psychic tutor told me, we're going to pretend that we're just going out looking at the stars. So, we're going to point up and look at stuff, and I'm going to be really quiet when I tell you what to do. So, don't blow it. And he took me out to Sanders Mound, where these ley lines intersect. And he told me, turn around, but keep looking at the sky, or pretend you are, point up at a constellation, but look at the tree line. And I did. And I saw at least a dozen auras from the tree line. And he said that the people that got the jobs out there, at the park, were witches, and that they were always there 24 hours a day, especially keeping an eye on that mound, because he explained that the electromagnetic currents that run through the earth are the same frequency as the ones that run through the human body and the human brain.
Right.
And that you can amplify what it is that you're trying to do by going to an intersection of ley lines. This happened to be an intersection of 3, and I could even see the ley line through the water. And he explained that he had been kind of messing around with the witches' activities. They had something that was called the Rite of Osiris that involved a human sacrifice. And he moved some of the boulders in their 5-mile wide pentagram out of the way, which made their spell or whatever ineffectual, and they were not happy about that. So he happened to be the captain of the fencing team at the University of Kansas. And one day, a car just pulled up onto the sidewalk and started gunning for him. And he had just come back from, fencing practice, I guess, but he had his saber on him, and he just pulled it out, and he held it directly out in front of him. So if they hit him, the driver of the car was definitely going to die. And they pulled back off onto the street and went on their way. And then my best friend Brian liked to drink a lot, and he liked to get naked at parties, and he did this quite often. And there's a a thing that someone built that's south of town that he just called the Sound Dome. And it's made out of cement, and it's got wood, doors. And if you close all the doors and one person stands on one side and one person stands on the other, the first person can whisper and the second person can hear it as if they're right next to each other. So we go there to check it out, and between three of us, there's a 6-pack of like 3-2 beer. So nobody was getting drunk. But Brian disrobed, and he crawled up on top of the dome, and he started howling like the coyotes and the wolves that we could hear, getting closer and closer. And we tried to talk him down, and he acted like he didn't understand us. And we got really scared, and they got closer and closer, and finally he came down and put his clothes on, and we got into my car and took off and didn't look back. And that's all I'm willing to go into tonight anyway.
Cardinal,
yes.
I just wanted to make a comment. Nothing wrong with streaking. Things need to breathe.
That's true. Boys need to breathe. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
The boys need airing out, as it
Boys need to breathe sometimes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
I got a question for you.
The funny thing is, though, just to follow that up, that it really was like I could not communicate with him. It was like he was completely on a different frequency. Like he was communicating with the wolves and or the coyotes, and he didn't hear me at all. Next question.
Yeah, it's a simple one because I'm curious about this. Is with the colors of the auras. When you when you were at the restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the predominant color that you seen from the vast majority?
So when you look at people's aura, the aura on their body is that Spielbergian blue, like I described, like from Poltergeist. So from here down, it's all blue, arms, everything.
Right.
And then around the head, there are different colors, and red tends to signify passion. Either they're angry or they're lovey-dovey or something.
Creative.
Intense feeling.
Yellow tends to indicate intelligence. And that's really all I remember. I don't remember seeing like green or any wacky way out like paisley colors or anything, but those are the ones I remember. And this is, again, from when I was like 16.
Right.
I remember another experience where this first psychic tutor of mine gave me a semi-precious stone called a Blue Star of India. And when you hold it up and your back is to the light, it creates a cross on the face of this black stone. And he told me to focus my energy, my psychic energy, on the cross, the dot in the middle of this cross. And so I get home from school and I practice, and the phone rings and it's for me, and it's my first psychic tutor, and he's like, "Gil." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Are you practicing?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Stop. I'm in Eudora, which is like 15 or 20 miles away, and I can feel you from here." And I was like, "Okay, I'll stop." And he was really concerned that somebody of what he referred to as my talent and my ability or my power would be discovered by these bad witches or whatever, and taken to the dark side. So I tended to listen to him and my second psychic tutor. Next question.
Okay, I guess I could field another question.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on the helicopters that you've seen that were going backwards that didn't have the propellers, etc.? What that you were seeing?
I do. Because by that point I was fairly well immersed in UFO literature, and a lot of people have reported strange helicopter activity that aren't helicopters. For example, in Vietnam, the code word for UFOs or flying saucers was enemy helicopter activity, because the Viet Cong had no helicopters.
Right.
So when I'm driving down 6th Street and I look over and I see this white helicopter that's got no rotors and it's pacing me exactly the same speed I'm going, 30 miles an hour, which is pretty hard for a helicopter to do, especially backward, especially with no rotors. Yeah, I'm thinking it's disguised, and the best they can do is a helicopter or something. I don't know, but yeah, I figured out pretty early that all of this strange helicopter activity, when you're looking out the window and a helicopter comes up from underneath a ridge looking you dead in the eye and then goes back down and you hear nothing, where it's really only a couple blocks away and there's nowhere for a helicopter to take off or land. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay. Yeah, I want to pedal back a little bit. I thought it was really interesting about you're describing a figure, how the skin of it. Were you describing it as like kind of this old, like reptilian looking, or what?
It wasn't reptilian looking. It was elephantine. It had really wrinkled skin.
Okay.
And it looked to me like it was old. And all of the photos and movies and everything that you see of Greys is like this brand new skin.
Pristine condition, right?
Yeah, and I just knew they didn't look like that. Somehow I intuited, or maybe I'd seen and forgotten. I don't know. I really don't think I was an abductee, but I know for a fact that the girl that I was dating was. And go ahead.
Oh, what do you think about like possession? Like
I don't think very much about it. I don't believe. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in God. I think that it's misinterpretations of people that have had epidemic seizures and other mental aberrations and conditions. I don't think there's, in the modern world, I think that we've medically figured all of that stuff out. So I know that some particularly religious people think that that aliens and UFOs are demons, and that they're agents of the devil or whatever. It's just that doesn't make any sense to me. It seems silly, and it also seems how to put it, irrational. It doesn't make any rational sense.
Gotcha.
It's a one-dimensional version of a two-dimensional story, perhaps.
In a sense, I mean, it's just it is simplifying or reducing to the ridiculous something. I think that's a much larger event, something that's a much larger,
Oh yeah,
maybe part of the human condition.
yeah, bigger scope, bigger scale.
If you look at the interview that I did with Greg Bishop, which was 9 episodes back, it's Into the Fringe #1. He created a theory or discovered or came up with a theory called the co-creation theory, and it makes a lot of sense, and it has to do with thinking about the mindset of the experiencer or the person that sees that UFO or the flying saucer or the alien or whatever. What's their state of mind? What have they been doing? Have they been drinking or doing drugs? And all these other factors. He would like to rewrite the book on the questions that are asked of experiencers. And I give his theory a great deal of credence, although I also believe in the nuts and bolts, theory that's previously been called the extraterrestrial hypothesis. For there to be a co-creation theory, there has to be an other. And you can see for yourselves on the channel in the interview what his response was when I asked him about that. Anybody else?
Well, I would like to take the time out to mention something here in the chat. I believe if you've got you got the opportunity to do so, Gil, I believe the Richard would like to come on because I believe he has an experience or two to share with us.
No, I've seen that. I don't have the ability to bring on anyone other than who we set up for this evening. Okay. Although I'm more than happy to have the Richard on next week or another time. I can't do it next week because we have a guest, but I literally begged the Richard to come on many, many times.
Damn you, the Richard!
No, not damn you. It's just
I'm saying that in jest.
No, it's just we have a certain amount of time and we're about 2 minutes away from running out of it.
Yeah, that's so
true. But I do appreciate his enthusiasm and I'm certainly willing to entertain his experiences the next time we do one of these, which, like I said at the beginning of the show, we have a large amount of high caliber guests coming on soon. So the next time we do a viewer experiences show, might be episode number 20. I don't know, but the Richard will be the very first person in the room.
By the way, I'd like to mention, or I wanted to ask Tim, when he saw these, like when Cardinal Gil, you were talking about the sleep paralysis, which yes, I totally agree with. I know that those you saw at the foot of your bed, those are shadow people, and they've been in history, like back to like caveman days, and yeah, you sound like me, like, no, I love to wrap my feet underneath the blanket and like cocoon myself because it just feels safe to me. But I mean, like, but I mean, like, no, like they're those were shadow people, and like they've been there since the beginning of time, as far back as we can remember. One other thing, and not just Tim, but anybody else listening, if you hear your name 3 times, well, if you hear your name, first of all, but if you hear your name 3 times, I learned this from my Nana. She's actually from Tennessee. Here I am up from Canada, but my Nana's in Tennessee. But she told me, like, if you hear your name 3 times, get the hell out of there. Wherever you are, get the hell out. Whether it's in your bedroom.
I've heard that regarding fairies, the fae folk.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness, last night when I was putting together the recording that I heard, I only heard Mexican Ironman's voice call me by name twice. God forbid. I should have heard it 3 times.
Yeah.
I've been.
Yeah.
I just want, Rod, I wanted to add to that because you brought that up. I've heard my name twice. I had not heard 3 times, just twice in the place that I'm in right now. So I guess I'm waiting for number 3.
Who's calling our names, man? That's not cool.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not talking about, but although I will say again, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about if you hear your name and you look around and you see it and there's like literally nobody and it feels like it's coming inside your head. I know it sounds weird, but, if you hear it inside your head, again, get the hell out of there. As a pro wrestler, I can say, like, I've talked to Bret Hart personally, and I have to say too, like, he himself, in his own words, he said he's seen the Grim Reaper. And I'm not talking about The Undertaker.
Oh, wow.
He said he has actually seen, yes, he has actually seen the Grim Reaper.
Yeah,
and
I've heard of those experiences too.
Yeah, it's indescribable. He said it's just kind of like again, like it sounds hokey, but no, like
it sounds like that Twilight Zone episode when the lady says, I've seen Mr. Death.
Yeah,
I've seen him come for me.
That's exactly it. Some people call it that. Everyone's got a different word for it. But like, no, like I agree with Brett though. Like, the Undertaker, or pardon me, the Grim Reaper is like really like probably the most common name, and like you don't see a face. They're just a cloak, and like sometimes a scythe, sometimes not.
It's not the Skeletor sort of skull that everybody sees at Halloween.
Usually it lights up in the dark.
Right. Yeah. In his eyes, it's just dark. You don't see anything. Like you could.
It's funny. There was a science fiction story written about death, or a comic book. I don't remember where it's. I'm digging this up from my mind somewhere, but. There's one day where death takes a vacation and walks on the face of the earth.
I know where you're hearing that.
You do? What is it?
That's death. Death, the high cost of living. It's Neil Gaiman.
That's what I thought it was.
Yes, from the Sandman series.
Yeah.
There's 7.
And then people that are supposed to die start piling up.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I figured that was from the Sandman.
Yeah, I love that series.
Yeah, I can't wait for Amazon to fuck it up.
No kidding. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we have to wrap it up for the evening. So, any last thoughts? Anybody?
Oh, I just want to point out one thing. When I was talking about that figure I saw that went like all predator mode, my headphones were on and my music was like blaring. These are noise canceling. Like when you cut off one sense, the other senses get more powerful. Like, yeah. So it was like, so I felt like that could have contributed me picking up, or I just sensed it and I looked over and I saw it like phase for a second. I just like looked back and I could feel the hairs on my back like come up or my neck.
Yeah.
So, and I looked back, nothing was there. But that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, and there's also a perception out of the peripheral vision of your eyes. There's a certain spiritual perception that comes from that, you know. And sometimes, like, you look and, like, you know, there's somebody, you know, somebody there, and you look and there's not somebody there. There is somebody there. You just can't see.
Yep. I think all of these things are true. And as we get ready to wrap things up, I do want to thank everyone again on the panel and everybody in the chat. Please leave a comment, subscribe, share the link out on all your social media, tell all of your friends and even the people that you hate about what we're doing here. And we will do it again. And for everybody that missed it, the replay starts now. So
Awesome.
that's the good news. Thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. To Mexican Ironman, Kylo Tim, Rod Thunderheart, Alex James. Thank you all for being here. And I look forward to our next experiment in viewer experiences.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. And it's Cardinal Sin out.